Welcome back to part 2 of the Rob, let's get straight into this. We should have got into this in the first part. Rob McElnea or McElnea?
McElnea.
Told you.
It's called a lot worse. I've been called a lot worse many times, but McElnea.
Part 2 of the Rob McElnea podcast. If you've not checked out part 1, make sure you go and do that first. So many stories, and I'm sick of saying this on the podcast. We could sit here for blooming hours and chat. Mm-hmm. But the meat I wanted to talk about, that has absolutely nothing to do with the TT. But I grew up watching the likes of you, now Neil Mackenzie, like very much like Steve. My hero was Kevin Schwantz growing up, and you were lucky enough to be his teammate. So take us back to early 80s, into those 90s, 500cc. I mean, I'm just going to leave you with that ball and just run with it.
Yeah, well...
it must have been a magical time.
It was an amazing time, absolutely amazing time. I think, there's a few reasons why I didn't do better than what I probably could have done. Was one, I was in awe of the legends when I was lined up next to them, and two, I was too fat. But but it was an amazing time. I mean, I say looking back now I'm writing a few things down. The 84-85 time was definitely the best, although the Ago years and the Schwantz years were the more sort of pinnacle, if you like, and more sort of prestigious. The time coming through when I was breaking through and I had my own little team and I was just doing so many unexpected things. You know, when the pressure's off and you're not expecting anything was a bonus. So if I go qualified on the front row on the bike what I wasn't meant to do, it was like, oh, you're a bloody legend, you know, it's brilliant. But then as soon as you sign the line and you get one of those bikes, what you've been thinking, if I had one of those bikes, watch me go. Yeah. And when you get one, it's like, oh, fucking hell.
Now I have to perform.
He's pretty fast, that guy. You know, it's not just the bike. So that I had all that. So the Suzuki years, I was riding the Suzuki in 85 out of my skin, the Skull Bandit year, when I was riding it out of my skin and making a few impressions to the bigger teams. Suzuki were folding, they didn't really have anything, and then I got the phone call from Ago. So
what a phone call to get.
What a phone call. I mean, I talked to him a little bit in the summer now and then, because I guess if you look, I guess it did make a big impression, because there weren't many people coming through. The guys have been there forever, and some of the guys come from 250, De Radigues, and a few guys that were there. But I just landed, and it's like, boof, who's this flipping, you know, maybe if we can slim him a bit, he could be a bit faster, you know. So I made a bit of a big impression, and then so I got the call from Ago. But prior to that, I'd got an offer to ride with Cagiva on the 500, their 500, the sort of development bike type of bike, and I got a chance to test it. So I went and tested it for the Castiglione brothers. They flew me in a private jet and did me all.
Proper rock
oh,
star.
It's awesome, yeah. And flew into Milan and then private jet down to Rimini, and it was just like, bloody hell, this I could
I've made it.
So then they pulled the bike out, and to be fair, the bike was good. But I remember testing it, and Mazzano in winter, and there was like they'd had a plague of like snails. There's tiny snails on the track, and it's like, what the hell is that? And you look, and it was so you couldn't really get a great run on the bike. We sort of managed to get sweep the track off, and I slowly got a groove going. But if you went offline, you're on a load of snails and little crispy things. Anyway, so did the test with them, and then they were brilliant. Like the Italians are, they want you. It's like so.
Yeah.
And took me back and had dinner with Mr. Castiglione and his family and all that, and then big offer on the table. And then phone call from Ago, which was like 2 bags of pasta and a factory yam. So you know, I wasn't bothered about the money or anything at the time.
So just tell us, how did that phone call go?
Well, it was one of them where
unexpected.
It was, yeah. It was unexpected, and in some of the stuff I'm writing, it's like a phone call, and Mrs. Ago, I'm like, fuck yeah, and then pick the phone up. Ciao, Rob, it's Agostini. I'm like, yeah. I think it's my mate from Scunthorpe. It's like Fat Jez from Scunthorpe taking the... And like, anyway, so, bloody hell. He says, you know, I want you to come to Paris and have a chat, and we've got an offer for you. So like, put the phone down. It's like, oh my God, this is getting serious now. So, you know, so the dream of getting one of those bikes I've been chasing around all year, and I've been showing promise, I've been mixing it with them. All of a sudden, I'm going, if I had one of those bikes, you're never going to believe what I could do. Next thing, it's like, oh crap, I'm going to get one now. So So, and it was all massive secret. I couldn't tell anybody because the deal wasn't done. I couldn't tell my family, couldn't tell anybody really. So that was probably 3 weeks before I get to go. But it was all like, so I had to keep it all inside. This is potentially happening. Flew to Paris, and again back in the day, get down to Gatwick, get a flight over to Paris, meet him in this big posh hotel where Philip Morris are based and so on. And I turn up there and like, ginger fat kid from Scunthorpe, and there's Aggo there waiting for me. It's like, I'd sit down in a little room, and I was already signing whatever he gave me. I was signing anyway. So he says, "There's 5 bags of pasta, Harry, and Rob, and a new jumper. There's your Marlborough jumper." So that was it, and then it was just like, so when that was signed, I could come and tell everybody back at home, and tell my mum, and my mum was very happy I was signing for Aggo. She loved them.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like to talk about money, but this was a long time ago. What was the offer from Cagiva in terms of monetary value? Because there was a lot of money going around at that time.
Well, not for that. Well, I was at this Cagiva. It was about 150 grand, something like that.
Right.
But
which is a lot back then.
In 80s, and then like that was sort of number one level for there, and then you get like Eddie on $500,000, and then not so many years later, Eddie's on 2 or 3 million, 4 million, and Doohan comes in. He's the first $10 million man. So, but I was sort of second, and I took a lot less to ride for Aggo. Mm-hmm. But I just wanted to ride. The Cagiva. Who knows what might have happened if it had gone that way? I might have ended up on a Ducati Superbike, which was at the time they were piss take. If it had a Ducati Superbike, you
win everything.
Well, not saying, but you never know which way it might have gone.
Foggy didn't say that.
I know, it's funny that. But we all know, don't we, Steve? But the chance to ride with Eddie Lawson on a factory arm it was no brainer. The casino thing wasn't far away. I'd been quite good trying to develop it, but I was a young kid. I wasn't that a great development rider. They just saw how brave I was, and they loved it, But the chance to ride a factory bike with Aggo and trying to learn stuff with Eddie was just a complete no-brainer.
How did he accept you?
Brilliant,
Eddie.
Yeah, well, I think I was his perfect teammate. I was pretty good at everything, but not as good as him. Yeah. So he loved it, and I was easygoing, no hassle. I was a bit in awe. We got on really well. I was probably the only guy he'd ever invited to his house for after we had a year together. I went and stayed with him for a couple of months actually, pre-season. Lived with him and trained with him. Got on really well, but like I say, no threat.
What's it like?
Fantastic.
Personality-wise?
Fantastic. Yeah, such a piss taker. Such a funny guy, but you would never know that.
You'd never know that. I'm just a fan. That's all.
Well, we all were, and like you got to know him, and he was such a piss taker. But all he wanted to do was ride his bikes. Yeah. No interest in all the other crap, and that's why he had that persona about him. Didn't want anything to do with the press, but just to love his bike. Just a life what we'd live for. He had at that time, he lived in a little tiny 2-bedroom condo with a garage, like. Amazing brand new garage, every toy in there. He'd open the door, dirt bikes, motocross bikes, speedboat, Porsche, every snap-on tool you've ever seen. Right. So that was his priority. And he just wanted to ride his bikes. He's brilliant. He had a couple of nice cars, but he spent all his time in a big V8 van with his bike in the back. Mountain biking and whatever. So just getting to be part of that was fantastic, and I had a great first year. To be fair. Finished 5th in the championship at a time when every generation would say that theirs was the toughest and so on, but that time coming through with Swanson, Rainey and Gardner and Eddie, and it was brilliant.
Huge depth.
Huge depth.
So it was the end. It was kind of the end of Freddie's reign, and it was almost right at the start of like you said, Lawson, Rainey, Schwantz.
Yeah, Lawson had a year ahead of those two young guys, and Kevin came in '88.
And then you had Doohan sneaking up as well.
Yeah, it was just. But then there's no easy. The first couple of rows with Christian Saron, Yachi Shiro. There's so many fast guys, and I don't think I ever. It's one of them where, like now, I'm retired. You look back and think, "Oh, that was amazing." But I actually thought that when I was there, I'd roll out onto the start line in my Marlborough suit, thinking, "This is unreal."
Yeah.
My first test, we all flew out together to Brazil. Eddie and I don't know if the first year, second year with Cadalora and Martin Wimmer were riding 250s, And it just, the Marlboro team arrives, and, my first test in Guyana in Brazil, first riding with brand new Dainese Marlboro leathers, cracking, and Bernard, mechanics, warming my factory YZR 500. He sat there waiting for me to get on my bike. It's like, my God.
Do you think that was a help or a hindrance? The
Hindrance.
fact that you were so in awe of
Oh,
it
yeah,
all
totally hindrance, yeah. And I was never, I always thought I was lucky to be there, always. I never thought, not that I didn't earn it, but I just thought, how does that happen? A guy from Scunny, you look at the grid there, there's got Lawson and you've got Kevin and Rainey, and where you see where they've grown up, I've been out there and seen how they've grown up on 100-mile-an-hour dirt bikes, sliding, I put round on a bull taco up a muddy stream. Do you know what I mean? And how did that happen?
Yeah.
So it was crazy. It was really crazy. But I never once took it for granted, and I totally appreciated everything about it. And I think that was definitely a downfall. I wasn't like Gardner came through, and he was so rough, didn't give a toss.
Oh yeah.
Me and him came through together, really, through England. I went first to the GPs, and he hated that. I was getting when I went in '84 and getting on the front row, he flipping hated that. And then when he came, he's a totally different animal. He'd given up. If you choose to leave Australia and live in a shitbox little house in Lincolnshire, you've got some desire, and that was the difference. It's for sure. He was so hungry, so determined, didn't give a toss about anybody, and he didn't give a monkeys about Eddie Lawson's history or anything, nothing.
Yeah.
Where I was, I was the opposite, really.
So did you make any enemies?
No.
Not in the slightest.
No, not really.
Taking people out, no new.
No, well, I did, but it was never on purpose. So let me off. No, not really. I think it was funny because I did not so many years, but the years I was doing the Grand Prix, there was quite a lot of respect from everybody.
Yeah.
I think there weren't any crazy stuff on the early laps of races. They were there. There were the surviving on a 500 is a massive thing, anyway. And surviving a weekend without getting battle scarred or getting riding the bike itself is tough enough. So if someone takes you out, so there was quite a lot of respect between the top guys,
especially that era, because excuse me, because even tyres never used to last a race.
No, and there was a big pecking order. I never really, I'm not saying, but I was a number 2 rider. I knew my position in Eddie Lawson. Jesus, he was getting the stuff, and I could qualify. I mean, I did 2 years and nearly qualify on the front row every week. But come race day, just everything, I was struggling at that. I got to it so far by riding over the top, and then I get to a level where I've got the same bike and everybody rides over the top. Everybody rides better than me probably, and I'm still trying to ride over the top. Where I never really worked out how they ride. I'd run into the back of Eddie Lawson in a lot of corners, like what? And then he'd be gone, and his tyres would last, and he wasn't getting tired. And I'm still riding too aggressive. I never really balanced it out. I think mainly a lot of it was because I was too heavy. I was losing quite a lot in a lot of places, and having that many extra kilos, your brakes, your tyres, and so there's a lot of things, and just trying to keep the 500.
I get it now. How he used to criticise me, where it all comes from.
Well, you were quite aggressive, but it is once you get to that. Say, I got so far just on raw talent and just being brave, and then you get to the top, and they're all super brave and they're all talented, but they know how to do it.
Yeah.
When you look at some of the, we didn't have telemetry back in the day, but then what I've learned since, and you see how they did it. I think if I had a telemetry back in the day and someone could say, look, that's what you need to be doing, where I educated myself as I got on with the team and seeing Steve and seeing people riding, if we had that sort of stuff in the 80s, it would have helped me loads, just to say, come on, you can't ride like that. Where the Americans, that's the way that, Americans would never crash. Really crazy. They'd never lose a front, ever. The Europeans had grown up on the front tyre, big corner speed.
Yeah.
That's what we all grew up on. But the Americans never rode like that. They'd freak them out. They'd be riding. When I was testing with Ed, when we first started, he's like, he'd follow me going, geez, Rob, you've got to get off the front tyre. You can't ride like that. But that's the way you rode.
Yeah.
You're just brave. So surviving the 500s, surviving a race day was a bonus on your own. Never mind people taking you out.
Yeah.
But it was like that though. The whole year was like you'd never plan anything. with your mates. You never look forward other than the Monday morning. If you got to Sunday night, skate free, right, we'll go for a game of golf. Or we've got a weekend coming off in Salisbury, on the way to Rijeka. We had some really great stop-off places where the gang of us would travel together, but no one would speak about them. We'd get to a race in south of France and we'd have a weekend off next, but no one would mention the weekend off at all until the weekend was over.
Brilliant.
And let's see who's fit. Oh, he's got a bit of a dodgy collarbone, but he'll be all right.
Yeah.
He's got his finger broke, but he'll be all right. So, and it was like that. You wouldn't kiss death, And it was living your life like that. You talk to normal people and go, what a crazy existence that is. But you didn't really know if you were going to survive. You really didn't. I mean, I didn't, because I was pretty much on the edge all the time. I'm sure Ed and the guys who rode a bit better than me, but it was like that,
The bikes were just pure animals.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of people that are listening to this have probably grown up on 4-strokes, MotoGP, seeing the riders with bags of, like you said, telemetry, just all the information that they'll ever need, anti-wheelie, traction control, things like that.
Totally.
But on one of these bikes, it
nothing.
was...
It's just a throttle.
Yeah.
Totally.
So two seasons of qualifying front row, but you never won a race.
Never won a race. Never got on a podium. No. My only
fourths, but not.
I had about eight or nine fourths, and a couple. I actually did step on the podium at Assen, but it was a 2-part race, and they pulled me off and put fucking my molar on because they got the timing. They got the timing wrong, and he caused the stoppage as well. So I had some tears. I had a lot of tears. I had so many close ones. I came through at Monza in a crazy battle, took the line for third place, sat up, and there's one more lap to go on the lap scoring board. They got it wrong. They had got it wrong. So I'd done all the work, got to third place, and it wrong, and then went mental and I crashed, I think, in the last lap. So
what was the race in Misano? I want to say Misano or Monza where it had rained and all the riders went on strike.
That was Misano.
Misano.
Yeah.
And Keeley was the only...
Yeah, I should not have stroked. If I didn't strike, I probably would have won the Grand Prix there. Bookmaster got on the podium. But it was all...
But you followed the lead of everyone else.
Yeah, I did. I was just a sheep. Just went along. I should have. That was Eddie. Eddie was most vocal, so I think if I'd have gone the other way there, that would have been.
And you would have had some enemies.
So what was the issue? Was it the rain and the tyres weren't good enough? Or?
No, the track was wasted anyway, and it was like it's so slippy. And the best of days, when it rained, it was just nothing, no grip at all. You couldn't stand up on it. Yeah, it wasn't safe. No way was it safe. So that was the right decision, but Keeley did it, and he got a bit of flack from it.
Yeah. But he did get a win on
He's got a win. He's got a win.
Yeah, whenever you look back now,
I know.
you see his name, won't
Rub
you?
it in.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Rub it in.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Sorry.
I know. I think, if anything, I just would love to have had a podium. Yeah. One podium. I know it sounds like petty, I guess, but...
hey, it doesn't matter whose career you're talking about. There's always something.
I know, yeah. And I never really got any regrets, but it just... and even then, I still had such a great time, and I think I did okay for what I had, what tools I had.
Oh, I think there's 1,000 riders out there that'd take a 4th place in 500, wouldn't they? So, but it's never enough.
I'm panicking because there's so much to talk about.
All right.
Let's fast forward.
All right, okay.
So team management, obviously you've gone through your career, fabulous times, and obviously you've won TT and done. Obviously, I know you ain't won a Grand Prix.
All right, yeah.
But so anyway, but you're coming back in the British Championship, doing some winning.
Yeah.
You're a good rider of yours, obviously, and a teammate at the time. You're managing and riding. Whittam takes you out at Mallory Park, and I'm watching this from Devil's Elbow.
No way.
Bird's eye view. Obviously,
yeah.
Just talk us through that.
Oh, so you do agree that he did take me out then? He's still done.
150%.
If you're listening, James, there you go. He's never admitted it yet. He still thinks it's my fault for leaning on him.
Mate, listen, he was just coming out of Inkley when you was going into the corner.
Well, it was crazy because he was riding so well that year on the Fast Orange bike. He just clicked. I mean, it was the worst bike I've ever had, and the best bike he'd ever had. He'd come from mixed Grand Suzuki, and he's got this brand new bike. He totally loved it, and he was riding amazing. So he'd won the championship. And I just needed to finish the race, and I would have been second. But Moody was on fire on the Norton, and I think I was leading anyway. Moody went through, and James is trying to get... And like I said to him before, I said, just follow me, and the first race, just follow me, and we'll finish this race, and if Moody wins, no problem, I'll still be second. Anyway, he couldn't do it. He wanted to get past him. And that's my golf career.
Devil's Elbow?
No, the S's.
No,
the
you're
old
watching
S's.
from there. Right.
It was the old S's before the Edwin chicane. So I don't remember a lot about it, really. It's quite nice. I woke up when all the pain was gone.
Was it? Oh, flipping it, yeah.
I broke my femur and punctured a lung and shoulder and stuff like that. So it was a bit of a mess.
So that was that racing career over.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're getting on.
Oh, well, I was retiring anyway.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that was going to be my last year. I didn't retire injured, but I was going to retire anyway. That was the year when Senna and Rainey got hurt. Some similar time. I was just sick of like pushing over the top all the time. I think I was the wrong size to be a motorcycle racer.
Yeah.
And like Neil Mackenzie coming over for us later on, and he was the right size, and he was riding within himself all the time. Like you were, well, you were pretty wild, but like a lot of the normal size guys.
So.
No, but a lot of normal sized guys are passing people from here.
Yeah,
you know, and that they can just. I never got a chance to do that until I got a big engine once, but.
So obviously, you know, Cadbury's Booth days, Mackenzie on board, you know, another ex Grand Prix rider, fabulous rider.
Yeah.
You managed to lure him back, and everything was a success.
Yeah, well, that was we'd managed to get this when James rode the Fast Orange bike. We did a couple of world rounds, and we was looking over the shoulder at the factory bikes, these Belgada bikes, and Fabrizio riding them. So I was like, "Oh, the bikes are beautiful." I was like built in Scunthorpe, you know, best we could. With those bikes were so beautiful, carbon fibre here, and the Italians don't waste any money on all that sort of stuff. And anyway, I said to Neil, "We're getting them bikes." He's like, "Yeah, you really?" Because Neil was a bit, you know, coming back to the British Championship was a big thing for him. He didn't want to mess it up. I said, "Yeah, we're gonna get them factory bikes." You know? And didn't really believe me until we got them back. And then when he saw them, he's like, "Oh, here we go."
Yeah.
And their bikes were beautiful. So he was such a class rider. And when I came back from doing the world stuff, I kept my level for a year and a half, where you'd better than everybody. You just wherever they break, you just pass them. It was easy.
Yeah.
And I kept that level. And then eventually the level came down when Neil didn't. Neil just kept that level. It was brilliant. So that was fantastic times. Cadbury's Boost had loads of sponsorship, great name, loads of sponsors attached to it. Yamaha had a PR agency bringing the sponsors in. So we won it 3 times on the trot. Then we had a great time with Hizzy and Chris Walker. We found Chris Walker just about, give him a break. And then at the end of '98, just lost everything. The PR agency fell out with Yamaha, lost everything, no sponsor at all. So I'm like, what the hell, you know this? So then from that day on, we pretty much said, I want to do it all myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to be hold to someone else with all the cards on the table and have nothing left. So, which suited Yamaha, because Yamaha didn't really have any budgets, and they wanted, if I was prepared to try and do it, they were up for it. So they supported me the best we could, but we had to go out. And that Mackenzie was a British champion, 3 times British champion, no ride, nothing, new R7 turned up, and we had nothing at all. And to a point where it was just Neil and I were on the phone, just trying to find something. I had another business, I had like a parcel business. I was trying to sell deals with big companies and do the swap to my parcel company, and we can do this. And the amount of deals and phone calls we're trying, you wouldn't believe it. You know, Neil Mackenzie.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it'd be that difficult though, having the
well, it was.
3 times
Couldn't do anything.
British champion.
And in the end, this new R7, time was ticking. We managed to find a few quid. I sort of stole a few quid from my company. We went testing to start the season. Let's try and get going somehow. And then while we was there, we got a phone call from a chap at Virgin Limo Bikes. I can't remember his name. It's that bit sad. I can't remember his name now. Boyd. Anyway, he's an ex-racer, and he says, there's a chap here. You know him, don't you? Yeah. And it basically says, we'll put a word in, and we reckon we might be able to get Virgin, link into Virgin. So while I was in Spain, I managed to get a phone call with a guy called Will Whitehorn on the phone, and I didn't really know who he was, but he was Richard's right-hand man, and he's chatting away, and I said, what do you need? I said, well, for this year, not a lot, just need enough to cover us this year. And he said, yeah, we'll have a go at that. I'm like, what? It's like that. So I rung Andy Smith, the boss of Yamaha, and we'd all been really struggling. And I said, I've just been on to this chap. He's either a bullshitter or he's a man. So he wants you to call him. So we put the phone down, so we rang him. He rang me back, he says, he's either a bullshitter or he's a man. And it was the man. So we went. I flew straight back from Spain, went to meet them, sat down, signed up, poof, we were away. The first year was just literally sticking on the bike. But it's quite exciting because all the Virgin Mobile was being launched. So they was going to launch it with us, and then the relationship just grew. It was just brilliant. So
it grew and grew and grew.
We did like maybe I don't know many years now, a lot of years now. But with the Virgin Cup, they loved all that Virgin Arctics Cup.
So you were in charge, you oversaw all that as well.
Yeah, it was mine and Andy Smith's idea to do it, and it was my idea to give the prize of a contract with the main team.
Yeah.
So like getting someone from Scunthorpe United straight to Man U.
Yeah.
It's never been done before. So it's a big thing to do, but it was brilliant. It was worth it. People would spend hundreds of £1,000s to get to that level eventually. And some of them would. Carl Crutchlow and Tommy Hill, they were the first year.
Well,
they would probably got there eventually, but not as fast as what we did.
Yeah, some names that came through the R6 Cup.
Yeah.
Some world champions.
Beautiful bike to ride.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah. Connor Cummins, he
did it. Yeah.
got his teeth into that one as well, didn't he?
Yeah, well, it was just an amazing platform for him to show up. We managed to. It cost a fortune. We had to pay for the TV. We had to pay for all the back. But Virgin were up for it. Virgin were just a proper, like, the best sponsor you could ever imagine. Because most sponsors you go to and they give you £100,000 and that'd be it.
Yeah.
And you go and deliver and try and do. These would give you $500,000. And then they would have another $500,000 to make it work. As a proper PR company. So they were just. It was a fantastic time. And then with a name like Virgin, you could add some really good sponsors. Like we had Iowa with James Hayden, and we had Samsung and some really cool names which were working together. And I did a lot of brokering where Samsung wanted to be in some of the Virgin stores and Virgin wanted to do work with Samsung, and I was putting people together. So it was a really cool time. And it was a real solid sponsorship deal when it works like that.
Bit of a businessman then as well.
Well, you had to duck and dive, didn't you?
Yeah.
To survive. So.
Did you learn to duck and dive because you had to survive, or was there something else in
there?
No,
I think that. Well, yeah, I just raced. I raced from when I was 16, so I didn't have anything. I didn't really work.
Yeah.
So I learned to duck and dive a bit later, and in the last few years, it was really tough trying to find the money and survive.
You came at the right time. Well, everything came at the right time for all that. Then,
it
didn't
did, yeah.
You moving into management.
Yeah.
The sponsors coming.
Well, and that
board.
Virgin thing was such a great tie up, and I loved it. I knew it was one of them where when I met them, all the young guys in the office in Leicester Square, I thought if I can get these guys to a race meeting, they will be totally hooked, and they were. They totally loved it. They couldn't believe the passion in the fans. They said, "You can't buy that." You go there and there's 25,000. They'd never seen crowds like that for a start. It was way past touring car and all them, and I was selling it to them. But I really wanted them to come, and they come to the first race at Brands Hatch, and that was it. We were just away. Then they were just going away, thinking of crazy ideas. What can we do next weekend? What can we do? What can we?
That's what you want out of a sponsor, isn't it? Someone that brings those ideas.
Yeah,
to you
and then Richard would come, Richard Branson, and have a schedule. He'd fly in an helicopter. He'd have like a 15-minute window, and. He'd end up being pissed all day with the girls in Lycra and having a beer with him. And they'd love it.
Oh, mate, do you know what? So flipping Brands Hatch, I was on the podium. I can't remember.
He was there.
The hospitality was down on the bottom of Paddock Hill, Ben, when she turned one down the bottom. And obviously he's down there with all the flipping Virgin girls and on the champers and everything else. Gets to the podium, and he just whipped the bottle of champagne straight around, and he sprayed it everywhere.
Yeah, and he was loving it, wasn't he?
Yeah, mate.
But he was totally loving it, and all the office and the hierarchy the next Monday were going, "Oh man, Richard had such a cool time. He just never does that. He never really chills out like that."
Yeah.
And he just totally loved it, and it made the relationship much. We definitely over-delivered, under-promised and over-delivered. And once they saw
you do that.
And they totally loved it. They totally got it all. And they couldn't believe the passion in the bikers. Yeah. And this is what I was selling to them. So once you get there, you see this passion, you won't believe it.
You're into it, yeah.
So then the Virgin Police girls turned up, and every year there was something new they wanted to get into and have fun with it,
Yeah. I suppose it's lucky having someone like Branson on there, because he was quite a fun marketeer, weren't he?
Yeah.
Always doing something different. But you touched on that there. Steve rode for you.
Yeah.
I've got a list here. Obviously, we've been through James Whittam, Neil McKenzie, Chris Walker, Steve Islop, you, Steve, Simon Crayford, James Hayden, Sean Emmett, Carl Harris, Tommy Hill, Loris Baz. Like, the list goes on and on and on. But who was the worst to work for?
Oh.
Was it? No. Same here.
No. I don't know the worst to work for. I don't know.
With. You can name them. Come on.
Well, I just trying to think who was hard work. I don't know. I think. I don't think. I'm trying to think who it was worse.
I'm just trying. Let me have a look at the list.
Yeah, you give me some ideas. I can't remember all of them, and I've never fallen out with anybody. So now I'm retired. I'm not going to fall out with anybody.
Well, all right then. While he's looking at the list, who was the best to work with? Like who
Neil.
was easiest?
Neil was brilliant.
Yeah.
Super competitive, but he won't like this. Hizzy was probably the guy who I'd love to have if somehow the times were a different way and I could have managed him, I got hold of someone. Once I got to know him and knew what he was like, it's just such a shame that I couldn't have got hold of him.
This is Steve
Islop, yeah. If somehow it was the roles were reversed and I was older at the time and I could have helped him, he would have been someone who could have just really been amazing.
What was he like?
He's
a fascinating character.
Yeah, really amazing character. Just fickle, He's just
so much. I rode with Steve helped me out a lot, and he took over from me. I left 02 and Steve was rode 03 on the Virgin on the R1. But so fickle, and his attention to detail was massive. He could explain anything really, but if he was happy, he was like world class. But if he wasn't, he was club class.
Well, he was
club racing.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what happened. He started with us, and it's really a bit sad in the end because I ended up sacking him after 3 years. Started the year amazing, like just battling right at the front. Well, the R1 wasn't the best bike at the time, was it?
Not championship wise.
No, but
he won races. But...
Yeah, but he was up there battling, and he was amazing, like happy as Larry. He turned up at I think it was Thruxton, one of he was like record holder, and he was amazing around there. He couldn't do anything. Anyway, just Thruxton, absolutely dire, and we ended up falling out, and they had to lay him off. I have got sponsors.
Yeah.
And even Steve Hislop, his name doesn't work if he's not getting results, so we had to let him go. And then the next week was planned to go to Knockaland. He'd done a deal to ride a privateer Ray Stringer's Kawasaki, and he would for sure have kicked our ass, but he got killed in a helicopter.
Right.
So they never got to see it, and we would have shook hands at the end of the year. It was all a bit rubbish because we were quite good mates.
Yeah.
I had to let him go, which wasn't easy, and then I never saw him again. So it was a real shame that I never got, because we would have had a beer at the end and shook hands, and he would have kicked our ass, because that's the way, the underdog. Yeah. He was the classic, unbelievable underdog.
Yeah.
And if everything was right, it was amazing. But even if some things weren't quite right, if he had the right frame of mind, he would still be unreal. So it's just a shame that someone couldn't have, whether it was me or not. But when I got to know him, I thought, bloody hell, what a talent this kid has got. And it's just such a shame that he's not. He didn't see it all. No, we didn't get to see it all, did we?
No,
because he's just a troubled mind. He was a bit of a troubled chap.
Yeah, that's what you often find with
so
genius,
he was special.
Yeah.
So as someone to work with, he was easy to work with. Neil was demanding, but the bikes were brilliant. Then with the boost bikes. But
how was the relationship with you and Neil though? Because at that point you'd both come from
we're just
you going to management.
Yeah, he was the best. He was my best mate on tour, and. You're pretty close. We're still really close now. And we had a few sticky points when they got aggressive, because he didn't like Steve. He wasn't happy.
Hislop and McKenzie. Yeah. Remember Snetton was one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he didn't like the Yamaha signing Steve, because he'd won the championship and he was a man. Why are you giving someone who's going to give me a hard time?
Yeah.
And he was. I think another bit of. Sad moment really was that I went out and watched it, because I used to go out and do a bit of spotting and come back and have a chat with the boys. I went out at Cadwell and was spotting for Steve, and he was coming out of barn, and my God, he was so far over the white line. And when he come out, I'm like, oh, I can't watch this, but he was perfect, he's beautiful. I said, and everybody else picks it up. It's a really scary corner, a bit off camber, and if you ride like that, you're really high risk.
Yeah.
Everybody picks the tyre up and fires it. So I'm saying, oh, Steve, you're getting a bit close to there. But that's how he rode, wasn't he?
Oh,
He's 250 rider.
Yeah.
I said, boy, you're getting a bit scary there. And everybody sort of picks it up and fires it. So next lap, picks it up, fires it, eye-sides himself, and then ruined and lost the championship, because I think he could have given Neil a really hard time that year. So I sort of thinking, that was
just keep your
mouth shut. Because that's how he rode. He rode like, but he was inch perfect, just to the stripe. Beautiful to watch, but pretty high risk. That was amazing times.
Yeah. Steve, shall we finish off?
Yeah, why not?
We have got loads, but haven't we? Somewhere. I'd come and do it again.
Oh, mate, there's so much more I want to ask.
What about my trials career? We've gone there.
I could egg him into anything.
Let's have a go.
Right, part 3 and part 4 coming soon.
Exactly. Right, quick fire questions. Just answer one or the other. They're quite simple. Just answer one or the other. No, I don't.
Well, yes or no, or just
not yes or no.
I just answer. All right.
Beer or wine?
Wine. I don't drink, actually.
Pineapple, get it.
Too late.
Pineapple or never pineapple on a pizza?
Never.
Freak.
Boom.
Kevin Swans or Eddie Lawson?
Eddie.
Time trial or mass start?
Mass start.
2-stroke or 4-stroke?
2-stroke.
Grandstand to Glen Helen or Ramsey hairpin to the bungalow?
Oh, my God. Grandstand. Technical.
Steve Hislop or Carl Fogarty?
Easy.
White Gates or Sarah's Cottage?
That's not fair.
Crashed it both.
Neither. Neither.
McGuinness or Hickey?
Oh, my goodness.
Outright TT lap record or 500 Grand Prix win?
500 Grand Prix win. All day long.
Thanks, mate.
Rob, it's a pleasure. I'm sure you'll be back again for some.
I'd love
for
to.
Some more stories.
I'd love to. It's been brilliant.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
mate.
Rob Mac, the Mac Daddy.
Oh, mate, listen, it's the same with all the older guys we have come on the podcast. We just want to sit down all afternoon, really. Yeah, not just for a short time. It's so interesting.
I think we caught him at a good time as well because he's reliving all these memories that he's had from the past with his. It sounds like he's bringing out a book.
It's been rumoured since COVID, and he's been working on it, chipping away, and I do believe in a short time there'll be a book coming, yeah.
I hope it's out before Christmas so I can get it for me dad. That'll be the perfect Christmas. Do you think he'll sign it for me? He should do, shouldn't he?
Probably not.
Brilliant. This has been the second part of the Rob Mac episode of the TT podcast. Please hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcasts, or in fact, watch them. Steve, you been checking out any of the reviews recently?
Oh, mate, listen, they're loving me.
Are they saying anything about me?
What's your name?
Oh my God. So make sure you leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Next week is going to be a great one. We have Pete Founds of the sidecar world.
One year, a big burly Hell's Angel turned up with a frame that was broken, normal bike frame, snapped his headstock or something.
Cool.
And my dad welded it all up for him and done it. Went to give it him back, and the guy said, "Go on, how much do I owe you?" My dad said, "Nope, nothing. You'll sing us a song." And the guy said, "Oh, I'm not singing you a song." And everyone's thinking, "Oh no, where's this going, Dad? don't do it." But he stuck by his guns, and after about 15 minutes of debating and about 250 people descending on our camp, this Hell's Angel sang "Bar Bar Black Sheep" to everyone.
Don't forget, that episode is out next week. And if you want all your latest news and features of the TT, iomttracers.com, and you can check us out across all the socials. We are at TT Racers Official. Officially the end of the podcast, Steve. Last word with you.
Over and out.